Of course, managing expectation is not easy.
Does the party now also looking at how it addresses disagreement?
We welcome actually whoever wants to come back to the party, but they have to commit.
How long can you depend on history?
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. I'm Amalina Kamal. Now, maintaining political longevity has its own challenges, especially when it's set against the country's backdrop of ever-evolving policy demands and, of course, the maturity in governance. Now, that maturity in itself has to come with questions surrounding ideas, institutions, as well as political culture that can be carried forward from one generation to another. And for Parti Keadilan Rakyat, PKR, these questions are particularly pertinent now, especially as it reflects on its own electoral performance and public confidence while progressing to the next chapter. Today, our discussion will be centering on succession, renewal, and unity. And of course, to talk about all this, I'm not alone. I'm joined by PKR's very own Vice President, Datuk Seri Dr. Zaliha Mustafa. Thank you so much, Datuk Seri, for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, Datuk Seri, of course, we're not here alone as well. We're joined by NSC's very own Associate Editor, Najmuddin Najib. Welcome, Naj.
Hi Lola, nice to be here.
Indeed. Before we start the discourse, right, a little background context as to why a party leader such as yourself is here, because we want to give that space for the central leadership to voice out directly the concerns or the rhetorics that have been thrown against the party. And what better way than to have you here joining us on set lah, obviously. Now, 27 years, right, Datuk Seri, PKR obviously was born out of a struggle, a different political movement. During that time, there was a political crisis, obviously. And the slogan that until today that we always hear, especially when there is a change in our political climate, right, is the idea of Reformasi, right? The party pushes towards having to ensure that Malaysia's institutional system can not just be criticized, but also to be scaled back and revived in that sense. So my question to you first here is that during the party's congress, you also highlighted about how that particular struggle is not just about holding power, right, Datuk Seri?
Yeah.
It's about how to change the way Malaysia works. So how does the party leadership, the central party leadership here, actually pushes for that and maintaining the reformist ideology even until today?
Right. Thank you, Malina or Lula. As I said earlier, that 27 years is not a short period. It's a very long history. You know, we started with difficulty until now. Today, we are in the government, and Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, our president, is leading the country as a prime minister. So I think, of course, each and every one of us, particularly our leaders, we have our own responsibility, in maintaining the agenda, especially reform agenda, which is the ideology of our party. Power and sustainability of the agenda is, of course, related and very relevant to each other. So I will put this in 4 areas of which I think we have to really look into to make it, sustain. When we are in power, we can actually deliver what our ideology, like for example, reform agenda. This is also proven. So the most important thing that we really need to look into is, of course, Jabatan Kuasa Pilihan Raya Pusat, or the election committee, Central Election Committee. Yeah, Central Election Committee is now led by Datuk Seri Amiruddin, our MB Selangor. Of course, a very experienced person, taken care of Selangor for more than 3 terms. Three terms. Yeah. So this is where, after we lost in the past 2 elections, I think we just have to reflect ourselves, and then reset and look into what are the factors that make us lost, and we really have to make sure until not only at the level of the central committee, but as well down there to our division level and also the subdivision level. So this is one. Second thing, is of course about the broadening and strengthening, the base, our base. So 27 years, of course, we have already 1.2 million members, registered members lah. But of course, with the 1.2 million, normally say about 300 to 400,000 active members. If you could remember, if you follow our Congress the other day, we have award to the best best division who produce more than the most subdivision or rantings. So this is one of the way we encourage our members, our leaders, especially the grassroots leaders, because we depend very much on the grassroots leaders, because that is where all the supports come. Of course, the member of the Central Committee that also led, currently it is I always call her YB lah, Elizabeth Tan, Ellie, is taking care of that. Membership drive, as well as strengthening and getting more subdivision level. The third one, I think, also important is, of course, training. This is where training is. There are lots of a spectrum of training. What do we look at the training part? One, of course, looking at the modules of the training is very important, because, as you said earlier, we wanted to sustain our Reformasi agenda, and even the newcomers need to know about it. So the module of the training has to be something like, for example, talk about the Permatang Pauh, declaration of Permatang Pauh. That is also the gist of our our ideology. And of course, leadership training is also very important. We just have to make sure our members ready to be leaders, at all levels. And last but not least is, I think, the communication part. Communication is very, very important. We know there's some lacking at part of the communication, and this is where I think we really have to look back. What are things that we really have to, make sure the communication part is taken care of. Because this is very, very important, I think, because people do not know what our agenda until we communicate to them. So this is, I think, the four things that we really need to look into, reflect ourselves, and see what we can, amend and do the best out of it.
Obviously, the points that you've mentioned is not in order of priority, correct? But part of communication as well is to explain to our audience, the public at large here, the expectation versus reality. Because demanding reform, again, from the outside, is so easy without having to factor in the systems at B. So perhaps for PKR's point of view, right, what are some of the takeaways, especially when you have to shift from being a street protest sort of movement into an actual administrative sort of body, and then having to also carry forward certain legacies, certain policies that are actually working, but you have to fine-tune it a little bit further.
Okay. Of course, managing expectation is not easy, Najmuddin. If you wanted to compare 3.5 years versus 60 years, the previous government, of course, is a very huge and large difference. And the time. About the institutional reform. So I think for the past 3.5 years, we are in the government. I think more than 50% has been done. It is all in our manifesto book, Pakatan Harapan book of manifesto. But when we look into it, it is more than 50% has been done. So I think it's a good achievement. Of course, there's more to be done, as you said, fine-tuning and whatnot. But I think this is where, again, how are we going to deliver the message to the people that is going to vote us, So that's why in the last election of state election in Johor and also in Negeri Sembilan, we are talking about politik persepsi. Politik persepsi versus politik reality. Or maybe what we have achieved. We have given it in data, but still it doesn't capture the people or the voters. We can see that sometimes the emotive politics play more, or maybe is more near to the people, especially the Malays. So this is why the communication part is very, very important. So I think the communication part is not only to be burden, of course, to the perhaps leaders our leader like Fahmi Fazil, who is also the Ketua Penerangan of our party. But I think everybody has to play its roles up to the level of the grassroots, you know. So whatever we do in the government has to be delivered to our party leaders and to the people who support us.
I just want to zero in on what has transpired during the Congress itself, which took place not too long ago, right? Nudge. I think I want to basically highlight a few of your peers, your party colleagues here. Well, Fuzia herself also made this remark of having to ensure that having to be in the government for 4 years, the institutional reform remains difficult because there's not a lot of leaders that understood what the agenda is all about. But that critique itself is not necessarily just coming in from internal, it's external too. So if you're able to highlight or to counter balik bila orang cakap institutional reforms is just too slow from PKR's point of view, what would you have to say? Because it's not just a coalition, it's a super coalition at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to say. You see, when the previous election, which is the Pilihan Raya Umum or the general election, none of the party dominance in the winning. It is why our previous Yang di-Pertuan Agong muted the idea of the unity government. Because previously we are so used to like the winner takes all.
Yes.
Or the what you call the pass to
First
past to post.
Yes.
Yeah. So who wins take the leaderships. But now there's no dominant party that won. So I think what we are doing now as a unity government is unprecedented.
Yes.
It has never happened before in our country. So and the unity government is the melting pot of everything, you know, with different kind of ideologies, you know lah. As for example, Keadilan or Pakatan Harapan and UMNO, two vast different. We are traditional foes before, and now we have to sit together.
Yes.
It's not easy, of course. But I think what we have done in the reform that we have seen, you know, for the past 3.5 years, is quite tremendous, I would say. Like for example, institutional reform. We have all the new acts coming in, and it's passed in the parliament.
Right.
Like Akta Parliament is passed. And then, of course, recently we are going towards the separation of power, AG and PP. You know, there's also a reform. Another thing is 10 years of the tenancy of Prime Minister,
Yes.
although we haven't passed it. But I think this is also one of the things, hopefully in the next session, by October, we can pass it.
Okay.
Akta Iltizam, which is talking about the good governance. So I think the perceptions of the people, maybe people do not understand, maybe people do not really see, you know, especially the parliamentary session, everything what we are doing in the Dewan Rakyat, people are not everyone's follow it, you know. So I think that is where, as you said, the communication part has to do their roles.
One interesting part from the recently concluded Congress was the president's call for an open invitation for former leaders and veterans to return, right?
Okay.
Now, this has been met with, I would say, a mixed response, right? You have people like Zv J. Kumar, people like
Tian
Chua saying that, yeah, we're all for it. But you also have on the other side, Zuraida saying that tak nak, you know, and also Tok Sri Rafizi Ramli saying that, how long can you depend on history or stuff like that, you know? How does this addition of veterans rejoining the party come into play for PKR itself?
And just to add to Nat's point there, because Datuk Sri Rafizi Ramli did say like PKR's push has changed, the approach has changed. Now only want dissenters back. So,
Okay. Actually, when we received the not to say reapplication lah, yeah, of membership from the previous leaders, like as you said, Xavier, Tian Chua. Of course, they left Hati for different reasons lah, different reasons. But I think, of course, as a party, especially the central committee, we discussed, you know, and we welcome actually whoever wants to come back to the party. But one thing, they have to commit. Have to commit to the party. But I think we have seen that, for example, Xavier and also Tian Chua, they have come to our congress. During our election, state election, they also have around. This is why we wanted to see the commitment from them. And to win, as I said earlier, to win is we need everybody. We need everybody. Whoever wants to join in, that will be very good. But when we talk about, like, for example, Rafizi, Nik Nazmi, they went out from the party and now joined by siapa? Wang Chen. Is their choice. And we respect their choice, you see. But I think the struggle has to go on. The struggle has to go on. We are very clear. Like, for myself, I'm very crystal clear why I'm here. And we need to, of course, tell the newcomers, especially not the one that the veterans, as you say, but the one who are very new, the youngsters, maybe the one who are not yet exposed, to political party and whatnot. I think this is where we have to tell them that history is also very important. Why we are here is also very important. They have to understand that why Keadilan is here is a mass movement. Yes. It's right. Always, last time we talked about from Rakyat to Rakyat, for Rakyat. So I think it's different from the history of other parties. Whatever it is, when we talk about the new party, like for example, Bersama, they talk also about reform, but we are already an established reform party. It has been 27 years, and proven. And the struggle is proven, as I said earlier, from difficulties until now we are governing.
Datuk Sri, I just want to highlight, like, does the party now also looking at how it addresses disagreement, that it does not lead to people just leaving reactively in that sense? Is it going to be part of the party's constitution to macam perhaps like for members to be more, to follow a certain due processes before?
I'm telling you, Lola, our party, Reform Party, sebab tu our this is what we joke around lah. When we say lawan tetap lawan, we mean it. Because even in our party, whether it is in the central committee, whether it is in the division level, whatever, grudges that we have among us, we'll just tell it out. Agree to disagree is actually the principle of our party.
Okay.
We can talk everything that we want. Our ideas lah, and even to our president, we talk openly to him. At the end of the day, is organizational discipline.
Understood.
It is a consensus, and sometimes it need to be vetoed also lah. Sometimes.
I mean, that's
from the
whole,
president.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the whole idea of having that chain of command at the end of the day, lah, right?
Exactly.
Of course, because to steer the ship in that sense. But of course, a vibrant democratic party often faces internal factions or vocal policy disagreements. These are all quite normal, lah. But we've also seen public friction comes externally towards the unity sort of block here, right? And some of this criticism comes from your own fellow coalition members. That is also part of the unity block.
Yeah.
So from the outside looking in, people don't necessarily see that as stable. Following your appointment as vice president in June, what sort of great structural strength do you see at least within the coalition today, right now, that you want to at least reassure to your coalition members that actually, guys, we're in it together. Remember that.
Okay, let us come back with the formations of unity government. It is all about stability. Stability is very important. Why do you want to be stable? Political stability and government stability, and at the end of the day is nation stability. That is very important. As I said earlier, it is unprecedented that we see this unity government, and we have seen the stability. Leave us with a lot of huge of achievement. So this is where we are needed. So sometimes, of course, I think in Johor and in Negeri Sembilan, perhaps, I think this is my thinking. Maybe that is the testing ground for UMNO Barisan Nasional to look into the coalition, the other kind of coalition, But Yeah, that could be the winning formula for them.
Yeah.
They won.
Alright.
Negeri Sembilan, they won. Johor, they won. But will that be, or may that be the best formula for the for federal?
Okay.
It may not. If you ask me, it may not. You know, because that might cause some instability. So we can't afford to be unstable. I mean, during the COVID time, we have changes of change of what you call prime minister. How many times?
True.
And the government is not stable.
Well, I
The nation
remember
is not
that.
stable.
I
Yeah,
think
of
we all
course.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
only with a stable government, stability of the nation, then only I think we can move forward.
So
Yeah.
you've been a federal minister again. Within that position, you've had basically invaluable insight into how the inner workings of the government apa semua kan. So what I would like to know is that within that framework, how do you balance the need for open and democratic debate, among your unity punya partners kan, without let's say allowing that criticism to erode
Public
public
confidence.
confidence.
I think sometimes, as I said earlier, agree to disagree. But things which are perhaps sometimes sensitive. I mean, as a discipline of an organization, any kind of organization, I think we have to discuss it internally. We shouldn't be, discuss too openly, because some of the things may cause again disruptions of the coalition. So this is where I think the integrity is very important. The intelligence of our leaders are very important. The way they condone the things are also very important. How they deliver the message to their people down there is also very important. So it is a mix of everything.
Okay.
So I think this is where, yes, we have to manage what is being perceived outside. Again, the communication part is very important. Engagement is very important. We have to engage with the public. Any kinds of maybe different kind of segment we have to engage to make sure that their concern is being addressed. Also, yeah.
And pulling this back to within the PKR punya setup lah kan, when you have internal rifts, well, I would presume internal rifts, which is normal within any party and all
Yeah.
that. So how do you balance that to what sort of mechanism do you have in place to manage that, to ensure that you present a unified front to the supporters and to the public at large?
Actually, if we have any grudges from our members, we have a way, to address it internally. So they can talk to any leaders, particular leaders. For example, if they talk, Setiausaha Agong is of course, is of course one of the figure of which everyone will look into and talk about their perhaps problems or grudges at the grassroots level. It has to be, everything has to be thrown in a what we call in a setting, or perhaps in a meeting internally, and come with a solution. Everybody can give critics, but it has to be critics with of course substance.
Yeah.
It's not merely criticism. We cannot live with that. So after that, I think after everything is being discussed, boiled up and whatnot, then at the end of the day, what we have to do is to have a consensus and come up with one solution.
This is our thing.
This is our thing.
Okay.
We have to, whatever it is, and don't talk outside lah. It has to be. Once the decision has been made, that's it. Everyone has to abide to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to do what you call gag.
Order.
Yeah.
Sure.
Following up to that particular point, right, Datuk Sri? So is the problem actually communication, or is it coordination then internally for the party? Would you say that is like a big gap that needs immediate fixing, or actually everything's okay? It's just that because the needs of having to become part of the unity bloc actually provides like bigger responsibility. Hence, a few things had to be put not on hold, but how do I say, like macam prolonged a little bit.
When you say everything is okay, no, not everything is okay. There are some things which is not okay and has to be looked into and respond by the leaderships. So, but sometimes we just have to condone things that which are, perhaps more dividing us. We just have to condone. We cannot, talk it openly and whatnot. But this is why I'm telling you just now, early on, the reflection, resetting is very important, because sometimes leaders are very, very, of course, busy. Many of us has already gone up into that high up position. So there are sometimes miscommunication or misunderstanding between the leaders and also the grassroots leaders.
Understood.
Right? And also the people at the division level or at the grassroots level. So this is where the missing link. Again, all those things like training, communicating to the people down there has to be done.
The 4 elements dah. Okay.
The 4 elements that I said earlier. Yeah.
Right.
Datuk Seri, going back to the issue of veterans being welcomed back into PKR, what we would like to know is, are there concerns among, say, the lower levels of members that this could be impeding their path towards progress? We've seen it happen in some other parties also.
Yeah.
But is this a valid concern also among PKR's grassroots, or the lower, junior level leaders? And what structural mechanisms that PKR has in place to fast track maybe young professionals, young high potential grassroots members to central leadership roles to prevent a talent vacuum?
So if you talk about whether the incoming of the veterans will actually impede, some of our leaders, especially the young leaders, maybe there are some concerns, but I don't think, it really give what you call the negative impact of it. Because we need the mixture of the veterans, the older leaders, the young leaders, everything has to be together. And moving forward, that's how we look at it. So, of course, there is concern, but we address the concern. But I don't think it will impede any of our moving forward. Now, coming back to the structural thing that we have in our party to make sure that the youth are empowered is, of course, we have Angkatan Muda Keadilan, so now led by Kami Muni, right? So and we have actually reduced down the age, 35 and below. So Angkatan Muda Keadilan is actually at the similar position to Vice President.
Similar stature.
Similar stature as Vice President.
I see.
So that's how we actually, uphold the value, the young or the youth in our party. And of course, when you look into the, and it is transferred, cascade down. In fact, the position of Angkatan Muda Keadilan also in state level and division level. So that is a continuity from down upwards. And during our, in fact, if you talk about election, Angkatan Muda or Pemuda or the youngsters is always one of the, what do you call, candidates, candidates from the party has to be some of them, has to be youth and also wanita.
Of course.
So we make sure that this position is being fulfilled, and we will actually talent spotting some of our Angkatan Muda to contest in the elections, whether it is at the level of a state election or of course a general election. So that is why when you see now that some of our MPs, our IDOs are from the young people.
Yeah.
I mean, our party is one of the party, or maybe the earliest party which has many of the young leaders, whether it be pemuda or wanita, and our ministers, as young as 29-year-old. So that's how we value the youngsters, and we wanted the youngsters to be together with us in the reform in the party, because they are the next echelon of our nation. Yeah.
So obviously that's part of the efforts to maintain the longevity, right? The continuous pipeline of having to ensure that the talent is identified early, the talent which allows for us to explore the experience and grow that particular leadership qualities there, but having to absorb them into bigger roles. Is the pathway, especially when you become a member of the party, is it as clear cut as others? I thought there needs to be a more bureaucratic sort of or seniority punya aspect though.
I think not really, because I think whoever like what I see in our in precedent, putting the new leaders in the not only in the central committee, but also as I said earlier, as a candidate for the elections. I think this is where we depends on the not the seniority, but whether one is able to be lifted as the as a leader with that quality, of course lah, certain quality, push into the what you call the limelight of the leaderships. So there's no really bureaucracy on that, but it is more on meritocracy, I would say. Yeah.
But what about young voters who don't necessarily live through the Reformasi era, so they perhaps do not understand the struggles of the early days, and perhaps they come in with maybe some ideas that is a bit different than your lawan tak lawan sort of approach, right?
Yeah.
Do you welcome this sort of ideas as well?
Yeah, of course. Let me just maybe reflect during my tenancy as the Federal Territory Minister. Yeah, so I'm quite concerned about the development of the youth. So what we did last time was we had one platform, we call it Sidang Belia. Yeah, Sidang Belia, whereby we actually elected from parliamentary. We have 13 parliamentary in what I call in Federal Territory. Each parliament give 5 names, and we train them. Some sort like a setting, like a parliamentary session, whereby they can actually debate and throw their ideas openly. No, actually, things that we do not, or we don't allow. No, so they can talk whatever they want. They put their ideas, and this is where my position as the Federal Territory Minister, I will hear to them, take some of the points, put into our policies.
Alright.
So this is where I think, in fact, in constituents, like my constituents, I have a very close relationship with our youngsters. Do engagement with them, because history again is very important. But nowadays, the youngsters, they don't they don't really go into that. But they have to understand the importance of politics, or maybe either it is party politics or politics itself in the daily life. In their daily life. This is one thing I think perhaps they are not quite clear why they have to be here.
I see.
Why they have, for example, why they have to be to vote,
Sure.
because there are studies showing that the youngsters are not actually into the politics. So that's why we have been seeing that previously the turnout voters are very slow from them, among the youngsters.
Is it because the options out there does not resonate with the needs of that particular generation? Because it's interesting that you mentioned they're not coming out to vote, but then the rate of political literacy among the young, at least the interest towards it, we've seen it grow, or perhaps that's what social media tells us, because you see a lot of youngsters coming out and say, hey, this is your right, this is perhaps this is one area that you should come in. Datuk Seri, macam it's very interesting to see this sort of argument being thrown out, like they don't come out to vote, but then political literacy, you see it more obvious nowadays, right? Yeah.
Is it a question of getting them more emotionally invested into the future?
And not just short fuse?
I don't like the words of emotionally interested, because I think they have to understand it clearly. Why what is the importance of having a good government, good governance, good leaders to lead the country and whatnot. I think this is where perhaps when we engage with the youngsters, we have to tell them. Like for example, when they are very happy when they are given 150 ringgit, kan, the pocket money. But why is it? How it is being done? The process of getting the decision from the government to 150 ringgit is actually going through all this process. So so I think this is where perhaps I'm not quite sure, because we haven't seen this actually, but I have some experience when if I could recall. I went to Jakarta. I mean, years back, a few years back. So they have one session before the children went out from school or go out from school. They have, maybe it is co-curriculum session, and they talk about to the children, talk about good governance, good leadership, the importance of elections. This is where I think maybe we can look into that to see whether we need that or not. Because
school level, you mean, or
just before they left secondary school,
I see.
into their university life. So I think
Okay.
is a good approach. Maybe we can think about it, to our children.
Datuk Sri,
Yep.
I want to go into the party's electoral challenge here, having to understand that, the past two state elections obviously has put certain setbacks to PKR, and given the party itself something to think about. Going into the Melaka punya state election in less than 2 months, what are the approaches here? What the do's and don'ts? Are there any areas that you need to really focus into? And if it's still true, is the PKR strength actually solely lie in the urban and semi-urban area and not the rural area?
From the past two elections, state election, Johor and also Negeri Sembilan, of course, we have done analysis on it. It is not merely what you call the racial sentiment, the Malay-Muslim thing. Of course, that is part of the reason whereby we saw that the BNPN coalition is a working formula for them.
Right.
But the more important thing is, I think, is for us to look, inner in ourselves, whether we have done enough, whether, again, things that we have to reflect and see what else can be done to garner the support from the Rakyat, from the people. So this is where I think in the next coming, Melaka elections, we have to do a lot of amendment and reset. For example, I think one of the reasons that we find out that perhaps our division level or our grassroots level are not that quite strong, in the sense that for example, the machinery, the maybe the campaign, so this is where I think, other than the Malay Muslim sentiments, that is one thing. That is, of course, we put as ahead of us, but the rest has to be done. This is where I think we have to see in terms of all sorts of reasons that are giving the result that we are facing in Johor Bahru, in Johor and also in Negeri Sembilan.
Perhaps, if I may, a question about election strategy as well. I think we saw in Johor that, please correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
the perception was that we can the approach was how PKR or PH rather can present a bigger benefits to the people of the state, and then it went into a more micro approach for Negeri Sembilan, right? Yeah. Based on this, what are some of the lessons that you've gleaned? Is it about it cannot be a one size fits all approach, or it has to be tailored even more specifically? Because this strategy in Johor did not work out. This one in Negeri Sembilan did not work out as well. What about for Melaka?
Yeah. So I think for Melaka, basically, if we go into any election, it's quite about the same approach that we're looking at. So one thing, the important thing is of course the voter segment. There are several voter segments. We have to identify what will be the critical voter segment, and we know that, for example, young voters are actually the critical voter segment. Perhaps the Indian voters are also the critical voter segment. That actually, what happened in Johor and Negeri Sembilan, we really have to look into that, and what are the best approach for these specific voter segments to, at the end of the day, support us in the next election. So I think more thing to be done, and in Malacca, I think we are starting and identifying again candidates is also very important. Because what we learned from election in Johor and also in Negeri Sembilan, leaders who are well known or known to the voters are also one of the important things that we need to look into, and we have to actually identify early. Grassroots leaders would be very, very good if we have one. So this is where the approach that we're going to do in the next election of Malacca.
Dr. Seri, what about having to see your federal coalition partners state level? They are not necessarily working together explicitly or whatever, but they have shown interest in the opposition bloc, right? Having to form that sort of unity state level. Will that impede federal sort of efforts in maintaining the unity bloc punya ideas?
It may, but as long as federal is concerned, our Prime Minister Sri Anwar Ibrahim has been saying it loudly that whatever it is, whatever happened in the level of states, it shouldn't impact the unity government in the federal. So the slogan of kawan pun boleh, lawan pun boleh is another thing. But I think in Malacca, they might. We have seen Datuk Sri Zahid has been also seeing early after the elections of Negeri Sembilan that perhaps in Malacca they will use the same formula. But whether or not they will use, still, they perhaps they haven't decided. But if that things happen, so as I said earlier, we have to see at what are things that beyond our control as the coalition party from Pakatan Harapan has to do to make sure that the people continue to support us.
But quite simply, if a BN-PN pact is materialized, would then PKR see it as a threat?
It is in the sense that, as I said, throughout that formula, BN-PH, is a winning formula for them. We have seen the transferable votes from PN to PH, 90 to 90%. So, if that happens, it may work, for example, in rural areas, Malay dominant areas. But in the urban or semi-urban, perhaps we need a high turnout voters for the non-Malays, especially the young non-Malays to come over and vote and support us. That may help. But nevertheless, I think we can't remain as we are the dominance in only urban and semi-urban, because the Malay area is also our concern. Because
so when it comes to the Malacca punya electoral strategy ni pula macam mana? More boots on the ground, or is it just having to win the hearts and minds through communication then? Because we've spoke at length about communication earlier.
Winning elections are combined of all, but again, yes, good machinery is also very important, to approach to the supporters and to tell them, communicate with them, engage with them, and make sure they understand our ideology, understand our struggle and why we need to win. So this is, I think, we really need to work hard for that, and hopefully, inshallah, to the Malays, I think, especially to the one who is not yet, tapped, is the youngsters or the early first fan-sitters and the first-time voters. This is where we really need to, have some special approach to them.
Okay, at least the party acknowledges that level of having to push out to appeal to more young sort of voters here, because the options for them are also aplenty, right? So before we go into the other aspect of why you're here. Basically, you're also part of the government's backbenchers club, and then you're part of PAC. One last question from me is that having to see the splinter politics at B today, right? Is it worrying for you personally as a Malaysian politician itself? The political parties now being further dissected or further splintered, fractured in that sense.
The more the merrier.
Oh,
But anyway, I think if you talk about the splinter parties, especially from our party, bersama our top leaders like Rafizi and Nik Nazmi, Wong Chen is already out of the party. But I think if you look into their agenda, it's also a reform agenda, you see. So it's the same thing. But maybe they wanted to have a new, different approach. I wouldn't know. But at least in terms of reform party, reform agenda, we are established 27 years. And we have gone through all the good and bad being in the struggle. So I think, yes, we got to respect them for their choice. But we continue our struggle. And we hope more people or more rakyat understand us and give support to us. Yeah, but I think another thing is for the next term, we still need Anwar Ibrahim. That's why in my speech the other day, I just throw this important topic, which is who's next after Anwar. I mean, the party has to think about it, or forced to think about it, because that shows that we need new leaders. New talents, tapping on the new talents are very important to make sure that the leaderships continues. Yeah.
Okay. Datuk Seri, one question now. As the chairman of the government backbenchers club, how do you navigate this dual role whereby you're ensuring executive stability while you are empowering backbenchers to aggressively question ministries when public policies fall short?
Yeah. So again, as a chairperson of the backbenchers club, they are MPs with different backgrounds. The Pakatan Harapan, the UMNO, the GPS, the GRS, So it's not an easy job, of course, but the importance of the backbenchers club is to support the government. We have to support the government in whatever cost. The move of the government, the policies from the government, we have to support. But does that mean that we cannot, question them or critique them? We can. So during the debate, you can say whatever you want, but I always remind them that it has to be a constructive kind of comment and criticism. We can talk about it. Yeah, we could be different in some ways, but perhaps some of the ideas could be taken by the government, and with maybe the new acts and whatnot, they can actually get the best out of the policy they are coming with. So another thing I think, which I think I have to give credit also to my predecessor, which is YB Saha. He came out with a friend of ministry, FOM. Friend of ministry is very good. I think, like for example, if any ministry they wanted to come up with a new act, for example, so they engage with us, the backbenchers, and then the briefing. They have a briefing with us, and then we can question them before we go to the debate. So it is good also, So I think more engagement. For example, maybe they can. This hasn't been done yet, but I think maybe they can think about it, whereby maybe in their events, big events or events which they wanted to do outside, they can engage us also. That will be much better blending of MPs and also the ministry.
Yeah. Just to disclaimer that the government's backbenchers club ni is not necessarily just like another secret society or whatever, just for like your fun soiree. Is that actual work?
Yeah, it is an actual work. I think being the chairperson of backbenchers, it doesn't reduce down my work.
Understood. Now, Datuk Sri, also you formerly served as Naj mentioned earlier, the Federal Territories Minister, right? And previously the Health Minister. But now also you sit on the other side of the table, which is you're part of the PAC.
Yeah.
Do you think your insider knowledge of having the ministerial level here change the way you cross-examine ministries when you're now on this side of the table?
No, I think the key word is professionalism. You have to you have to make sure that when we do proceeding in PACs, we just have to stand above. Of course, proceeding in PAC so far, it doesn't involve my territory last time when we were in the government or during my tenancy as the minister. But if it is there, so I think we just have to be professional. We talk about the integrity. We look into how government money is being spent. I think though it is actually led by Masjid Tanah,
Yes.
but Alhamdulillah has been very good. She also lead it well, in the sense that everybody can talk, fair to everyone, and at the end of the day, it's consensus.
Okay.
So that's how PAC are being conducted. So I think so far I have no problem.
Right.
Being previously as a minister, now in member of PAC, I don't find any difficulties in that.
You mentioned Masjid Tanah, Datuk Mas Miyati, kan?
Yeah.
So she is. So the PAC is now chaired by an opposition MP. So, but then it also is unique in the sense that it relies on cross-party consensus.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
To publishing findings. So, how do you prevent, for example, your party political biases, from interfering when the PAC is actually probing high-profile projects that are managed by your own unity partners? Yeah.
So far, I've been in the committee for 3-4 months. I don't have any difficulties in that. We don't talk about our differences, but we just talk about the truth of anything, especially during the proceeding. So I think, members of PAC led by opposition and the mixture of all is just a good way of check and balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the concept of professionalism that you mentioned.
Professionalism, integrity, everything.
That's right. I just want to understand, like, when it comes to the PAC's role here, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand the level of scrutiny that PAC itself has to go through, because when you're actually reviewing certain projects or something, you take time, right? I think before this, we had one of the PAC members actually come to our set. We talked about the insurance and what's not billed and everything, and said individual brought like a thesis book. So maybe you want to share with our audience the length it takes for the committee
How
to
thorough,
investigate, the thoroughness of the
It
investigations.
depends actually on what cases. It depends, and how many people that we call for the proceeding, and how deep we wanted to go on the proceeding.
A lot of public hearings, I suppose, as well.
It's a lot. So sometimes it takes days, and sometimes it takes weeks. And after the proceeding, we just have to go through again with in written whatever is being said in the proceeding. So it's just, I think, a mechanism of court, you see. And at the end, after the PAC, we are not scrutinizing in the meaning that who is wrong, who is right, but we will give a suggestion. So the suggestion is very important, because the suggestion is actually for us, for the government, for the public servant to look into and perhaps amend in certain areas where it has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason why I highlighted about that particular PAC punya investigation is because, of course, you were the former health minister, right? About the rising public hospital healthcare and charges. So it's pretty interesting to see how it took sometimes 19 times, 19 sessions basically to come up with the latest findings.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing actually. So when PAC presents a particular report with suggestions, then the recommendations, do you also follow up and ensure that all these recommendations are put to task?
I think it should, but I sometimes don't. So it's a lot of things, as I said earlier. PAC, there are a lot of cases that are brought up to PAC, and I think there are things that we have recommended during our session or PACs has been taken up by the ministries. So this is very good, I think, because this is where the why PAC are being formed and why it has to be that way. Is actually workable. So I think, and we are actually, of course, helping, especially during now another thing that the new government is doing, of course, the laporan Ketua Audit Negara, which has never been done before, presented in the parliament and get debated. So this is also very good, and some of the cases that we take over from take to the PAC is actually the one from Lekan, Laporan Ketua Audit Negara. So it's all out in. I mean, we are actually helping each other in that sense. Yeah.
Understood. Well, thank you so much, Datuk Sri, for your insights from Parti sort of dynamics into your role in PAC as well, and everything in between.
Yeah.
But if we can just end the discourse with just one question to you, especially because you're part of the Malaysia's political scene today, right? And Merdeka's coming up, obviously. What is one value that you would like for us as a nation to stay true to and not forget our roots?
The importance of unity in stability of the government or stability of the nation. So I think every one of us, being leaders, be it Rakyat, we have to work together for the best of our nation, for the betterment of our nation, and we need stability. So we have to play our roles, each of us, and make sure that our nation just going forward and progressing.
Keep looking ahead and have to be open towards change and towards betterment in that sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much, PKR Vice President Datuk Sri Dr. Zaliha Mustafa, for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Najmuddin. Thank you.
And thank you so much, NSC Associate Editor Najmuddin Najib.
No problem. My pleasure.
I mean, I wish I could extend this particular discourse to the next hour, right? But we only have limited time. But this won't be your last time, Desiree. Unfortunately, that's the end of today's episode. If you do like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell because you'll not only get NSC Beyond the Headlines update, other NSC Online's news reports will be delivered to you. Now, follow us on our socials. We're everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, X, as well as TikTok and Threads. My name is Amalina Kamal, and we'll see you next week.